This is Timeless African Stories by Uju. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Now let's get right back into the story.
On a serene moonlit night in the village of Akani, the atmosphere was as peaceful as a lullaby. The villagers had retired into their huts, exhausted from the day's toil and labor. Only the soft chirping of crickets and the gentle rustling of leaves in the cool breeze could be heard. Suddenly, a piercing cry cut through the silence, sending shivers down the spines of the tired villagers. Women clutched their wrappers tighter around their chests, and the men strained their ears to listen for where the sound came from. The source of the cry was unmistakable. It was from Chief Okeke's household. Another child had vanished. The villagers trickled out of their huts into the open, with fear and worry etched into their features. "Another boy is gone," they whispered among themselves, shaking their heads in despair. This was not the first time such a heart-wrenching cry had echoed through Akani. Exactly a year ago, on the night of the full moon, a young boy had disappeared without a trace. One moment, he was playing in the compound with his siblings, his laughter ringing out under the moonlight. The next, he was gone. The village had searched tirelessly, scouring the forests and calling on the spirits of their ancestors, but the boy was never found. The people were left in shock at this strange event, as this was the first time something like this was happening in the village. Everyone had something to say about it. The boy must have been abducted by evil spirits. No, maybe he was even a spirit himself. But how can that be? He came out from his mother's womb as a human being after all. This topic remained in people's mouths for days. And just when it seemed like the whole uproar was about to die, another boy disappeared yet again. This time, the villagers were more alarmed than the first. Mothers grew anxious, clinging desperately to their sons. Elders gathered around fires, speaking about ancient times like this, when such strange events foretold calamities. The greatest seers of the village were consulted, and sacrifices were made, but the events only continued to happen. The people watched helplessly in defeat as their sons continued to vanish on the night of every full moon. Amid this turmoil lived Dike, a young man beloved by all. Handsome and bright, Dike was admired for his intelligence and charisma. He taught at the local primary school, where his students adored him. Dike's charm and knowledge made him a favorite among the villagers, and many girls dreamed of winning his heart. He had a close friend, Ore, who also taught at the school. Ore was the only woman Dike could see. They had been only casual friends and colleagues for a few years, but Ore was quickly starting to become more than just a friend to Dike. For days now, he had found his thoughts drifting to her more and more, his feelings growing deeper with each passing day. That evening, as Dike and Ore walked home, their laughter mingling with the sound of the village and the setting sun casting a long shadow on their dusty path, Dike was determined to tell Ore how he felt. "Ore," Dike began, "there's something I've been meaning to tell you." Ore turned to him, her eyes curious. Dike took a deep breath and opened his mouth to respond, but just as he was about to speak, they were interrupted by the imposing figure of the village chief priest. The chief priest, a tall and stern man, adorned with traditional beads and feathers, stood in their path. His expression was severe, and his eyes bore into decay with an intensity that made the young man's skin crawl. With a dramatic gesture, he spat on the ground and declared,
Tufiakwa, you reek of ancestral spirit. Your time is limited, old man. Very limited.
He said and continued on his way. Ore and Dike were stunned into silence. The chief priest's words hung heavily in the air. What did the chief priest mean by what he said?
I do not know. Look, I'm just as shocked as you are.
Dike said as they walked home silently, lost in thoughts. That night, Dike sat alone in his hut, pondering over the chief priest's words. The flickering flame of an oil lamp, the only source of light. A sinister smile slowly began to spread across his face, and he chuckled, a low, unsettling rumbling sound. Rising, he walked to a small mirror hanging on the wall.
You are such a fine young man,
he whispered to his reflection as he inspected the few lines of aging that were beginning to appear on his face. It was time for him to carry out the next ritual. As the almost fully rounded moon cast its silvery glow, Dike began making preparations for the ritual. He donned his black velvet robe, adorned with intricate patterns of white and red mystical symbols, and carefully arranged the sacred objects: the carved stone of Njoko, the shell of the Imiri River, and the feather of the mysterious Ekili bird. The air was thick with anticipation as he lit the sacred Ogisi stick, its pungent aroma wafting upwards like a prayer. Dike's eyes gleamed with an unnerving intensity as he began to chant, his voice weaving a spell of renewal and rejuvenation. His body began to sway, his feet stomping out the ancient rhythm on the earthen floor, summoning the body of a young boy from the village. Suddenly, the boy materialized before him, seemingly oblivious to his environment. Dike watched excitedly as the boy's spirit was drawn out from his body, and he then opened his mouth to devour it. Immediately, he felt a rush of energy coursing through his body, and as he reveled in that feeling, his mind drifted back to the past where all this had begun. Dike grew up like every other young boy in the village. Bright and inquisitive, he had a hunger for knowledge that set him apart. As a young man, however, Dike had been terrified of aging. Each wrinkle and each grey hair that came as he aged filled him with dread. So out of desperation, he sought a way to halt time. His search brought him to an ancient book full of abominable spells that were not supposed to be practiced. But despite the warning, Dike delved into the book. He discovered a spell for immortality, but it required a horrific price. He had to steal the lives of young boys every full moon to maintain his youth. The book warned that if the ritual was missed on any full moon night, it would result in a painful and rapid aging process, which would later lead to death. Driven by his fear of aging, Dike gathered the necessary materials and performed the spell. On the next full moon, he summoned the spirit of his first victim and took his life. He enjoyed the feeling of being a youth again so much that he knew that there was no going back. And thus began the cycle of terror in Akani. Each full moon, a child would disappear and Dike's vitality would be renewed. The villagers, oblivious to the true cause of their sufferings, lived in constant fear, mourning their lost children while Dike thrived. Years passed, and as Dike approached his 100th year, his luck ran out. DK was carrying out another ritual when a boy appeared before him. As DK waited for his spirit to leave his body, he was shocked by what he saw. The boy opened his eyes and stared right at him in the eye.
You old man, I warned you. I warned you that your time was limited. Now you must pay the price of your evil deeds,
He said and disappeared. And in that moment, DK's own youthful face began withering. Wrinkles began to appear on every inch of his body, and he could feel his bones drying up. DK ran out of his hut like a madman, screaming at the top of his voice. The few villagers who heard the noise rushed out of their homes in a bid to help, but they were shocked to find an old man in place of the once youthful and vibrant DK.
Please help me. It's me, DK.
DK cried as he unknowingly confessed all the evil he had done in the past years. When he realized just how much he had said, he clapped his hand over his mouth, staring at the now shocked villagers.
No. I can't explain. I didn't mean to do all that I did. I don't want to die. Please help me.
The villagers recoiled in horror and disgust. They watched as DK's body dried up and disintegrated before their eyes, his bones turning to dust. A few years later, the peace in Akani had finally returned, and the villagers settled back into their easy way of life, even though the souls of the young boys who had long departed were greatly missed forever. Hey guys, if you made it this far into the video, don't forget to leave a like and tell me what you think about this story in the comment section. Also, if you're new here, please consider supporting our channel by clicking on the subscribe button right there on your screen. And you can as well watch our next video on your screen as well. Catch you next time on my next video. Bye.